No.
I'm pleading. Like,
No.
she's walking with me.
No. We're not going anywhere.
I can't even go pee.
No, you cannot
So,
go pee.
how do I supposed to use the bathroom?
It's either you make phone calls now for somebody to get your kids. Okay, I'm helping you. That, or I put you in handcuffs and we just go. No, we're not doing that.
So I can even, we have to.
This is what's happening, okay? You're gonna take a ride to jail, okay? So, sit down.
Come on,
Put your
yo.
fall.
I don't have nobody to go get my kids, so come
On November 8th, 2022 in Florida, a cashier's 5-month lottery scheme collapsed in under 20 minutes. This analysis does not focus on the facts of the case. It focuses entirely on the law that governs what unfolds on camera. The footage opens inside a Florida Winn-Dixie, where a loss prevention representative briefs the responding officer. Since early July, a cashier working the store's liquor counter had been exploiting the lottery redemption function. Apported by keying an instant lottery redemption without its corresponding winning ticket at 4% its percentage winning ticket. She could draw cash while the register's own internal totals still balance perfectly. Nothing on the front end of the store ever appeared out of place. Action. The shortage surfaced only when the monthly invoice from the state lottery finally arrived. Block section. The store had first state far more in redemptions than it had ever received, and that single discrepancy began to unravel the entire scheme. The case was documented before officers ever arrived. Surveillance video, registered transaction reports, and Florida lottery terminal records together confirmed a loss of $10,653 over 5 months.
That's all. Alright, so what's happening is we have an associate.
Okay.
We started seeing some lottery shortage over here, for instance, ticketing online. It started back around the beginning of July. And it's gone on till present. So
And still honest individuals been selecting lottery cards.
lottery cards, playing online tickets. Yes.
Can we go back in there for real quick?
Can you tell me what's going on if I can try to put
I don't know what's going on, so I can.
No,
Yeah.
that's because I don't want my kids to be stuck out the door and
I know, but I don't know what's going on yet, so let me talk to him and we'll go from there.
So I have her on video, selecting tickets, mainly at the liquor store. She would just scratch the bottom to see if they're a winner or not, discard them if they weren't, cash them in if they were. And then there's also another process on the cash register to where, like if somebody brings up a winning ticket, we can key in instant lottery redemption and then put in the dollar amount and then we pay that out. Well, she figured out that she could do that even without a winning ticket and everything's still balanced on the back end in our world. But then when we got the bill for lottery, then obviously we were like, okay, well, we paid out more redemptions than what we received.
Okay.
And so that's when all this started to unfold. So we're looking at total that I can prove that she took was $10,653, something like that, during that time.
Every instance on video, okay?
Every instance on video. I got it all on the thumb drive for you. Everything instance on video. I've got the our report that shows our redemptions on our register, and then all of the redemptions on the Florida lottery terminal. Since we don't own that, I had to get that through the state, and that shows everything of what ticket she scanned, what the value is on an Excel spreadsheet. So
Is there
that's
any
how I
type
access
of
everything.
login for her information? No, it doesn't matter. The machine is a machine. Anybody.
The machine's a machine. Anybody can do it, but it's her scheduled shift. And obviously on video, she's the only one at the liquor store because we usually only work one person at the liquor store.
Okay. So basically, she's been taking lottery tickets, scanning the bottom if they're winners or not. If they're not winners, they don't away. If they are winners, she scans them, takes the money. Then she found a way to make a lottery ticket every time. And it's been going on since July.
Attention turns to the cashier, later identified as Audrey Bird. The officer informs her that she is not free to leave, describing the situation as an investigative detention. That choice of words is legally precise, and it matters. Under Terry versus Ohio, decided in 1968, an officer may temporarily detain a person on reasonable, articulable suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. Splades? The decide documentational assembled here satisfied that standard with room to spare. Bird then requests restroom access on several occasions, stating that she is menstruating. The officer declines until a female officer can arrive to conduct a search. This exchange becomes the encounter's central constitutional question. The issue is not whether the detention itself was lawful. It is whether the conditions of that detention met the standard of care the Constitution requires of any agency that holds a person in its custody, even before a formal arrest. No. Under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, law enforcement assumes a duty of care toward any person it detains. That duty does not begin at the moment of a formal arrest. It attaches the instant custody is established. Youngberg versus Romeo established that detained persons retain liberty interests in their bodily integrity. The officer's rationale was defensible, but the duration of the restroom point was the true exposure point under Section 1983.
They have a thumb drive full of all the.
It started July 2nd, I think was the first day that we discovered it.
And all the appearances. So you have like date and times written out? Do you have anything written out yet or no?
Everything's on that thumb drive as far as Excel spreadsheet.
So she's basically taking lottery tickets, scanning them. But don't they have to be activated first?
They're all active because they're all, for gameplay.
Okay.
You said.
Sir, I didn't know what's going on for a couple.
I will tell you. We're trying to figure that out. We're trying to figure out what I have. Okay. I'm gonna figure out if we're taking it to jail or not taking it to jail.
Well, I need to know because
I will let you know. Once I know, I will let you know. Okay. So can you sit down for me?
Look, it's confusing because I don't want to lose my kids either. I have a 7-month-old and a child is in school right now having an asthma attack.
So let them figure out what's going on, and then
Take it to you for me. We'll figure it out.
they'll let you.
So I just can't just go home.
No.
Active now.
Why?
Because the allegations, I guess, we have going
They still
against you.
going to investigate this all.
Okay, well, not that they did their investigation. Now they can tell us what they have
No,
going on.
they had to talk to somebody else to finish going on and see what's going on.
Well, they're providing us a verbal statement of what's been going on since July, okay? So it's not more like you just stole a candy bar, okay? I guess there's a question about almost $11,000 worth of lottery tickets over. Okay, so
He explained to you, it was like,
Who say,
What plug numbers and what big numbers.
So, yes, we're gonna.
They can go, hey, track these.
Is that something you wrote down?
that's,
yeah, this is what I got. Let me see the pen.
You want the back or?
she's right, she's right.
Like you said,
Okay.
It's $30.
Okay.
You bring it back at and they scan it. They do instant lottery redemption as a hand key.
Right.
And then they put $30. We give you $30.
Right.
Well, everything balances in our world until the state, which we only get quarterly, the state send us a bill that says, hey,
You actually overpaid something.
we overpaid in redemptions because she figured out that she could just do that instant lottery redemption with no ticket and get a ticket whatever how much she wanted out of
So winner or fake.
Correct. Or not, loser. Winner, loser.
Having a ticket. Not even having a ticket. You just go up to the register and goes instant lottery redemptions, $100.
Oh, okay.
Really, you have to scan
$100.
ticket. You
Correct.
can just computerize.
Correct.
Is that normal practice? Like,
In my 15 years here, I've never had somebody figure that part out that they could just do it without a ticket. So obviously something on our back end that might need to be addressed, but
yeah.
because they gave you that opportunity.
Okay.
And then she played some online stuff too. I mean, the online's probably a couple $100, but the rest adds up to the, $10,600 something.
Okay.
You have a printout of.
I didn't print it out because it was just so big. I mean, these reports are
This PDF that you, or this USB that you have, what is on it?
I've got all the video of all her doing all this stuff. I have all the receipts of
Video, security.
security video. Yeah,
Timestamp and date.
yeah, timestamp dated. I have one file that has all the video. One file that has
You okay?
all the
Oh, shit. You scared the hell out of me.
I'm always been out here.
Huh?
I've just been out here.
She also figured out that if
So I just saw that she got up over there and you moved back, so.
Because you jumped. Because she told me to make a phone call. So I'm trying to think of who can I call to get my kids out of daycare bed and the school.
Her children are about to get out of school, so she was.
I know.
But I do need this data.
right.
So,
That's what I'm trying to figure out because the people in my neighborhood make sure they got the game. So I'm trying to think who went around my house.
I would try to figure it out.
That's what I'm trying to.
So while we're figuring out stuff right here, till you figure out what's going on
So
there.
can you ask him, did he get the statement that they were just talking to me about this 2 months ago?
I will gladly ask you. Don't worry about that. But I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be talking with them. We're going to figure out what we have going on. You have until by the time we come in here and talk to you about what's going on to figure out a ride for your family, for your kids and stuff.
Going to jail.
There's a possibility of that.
Why?
Because apparently you stole almost $11,000.
And the court in charge that run this court had a conversation with me,
Okay.
and they woke me up for.
But like I said, let me figure out what they have over here. Just get somebody, see if they can pick your kids up just in case if you do happen to go to jail.
That's the
Okay.
thing I'm trying to think. Who can I call? My family don't stay here. They stay in Georgia.
Okay. Well, you need to figure out a family friend or somebody, or it's I can call my friends, the Child Protective Services.
So can I call y'all? One of the police officers that used to work with you guys.
Used to or does?
So all right,
I don't know. I don't know if they're.
Cars didn't tell you about the meeting we had.
Hang on.
See, now he don't want to say nothing.
Because he's talking with us. I told you. You just can't interrupt. We're talking now. So figure out what you're doing. Figure out somebody with your kids, okay?
Can she walk me into the bathroom?
No.
I'm pleading. Like,
No.
she's walking with me.
No. You're not going anywhere.
I can't even go pee.
No, you cannot
So
go pee.
how do I supposed to use the bathroom?
It's either you make phone calls now for somebody to get your kids. Okay, I'm helping you. That, or I put you in handcuffs and we just
I
go.
have to.
No, we're not doing that.
So I can even
We have to listen to.
It's you're in my custody right now. You're not free to go. You're under investigative detention right now, okay? You know what that means?
Someone to talk to them.
Okay. Okay.
So what was the question?
Just the actual total amount, see if we can put.
Let me get my phone.
I see. Let me ask you a question. If a police standing in front of me, they could deny me for using the restroom.
You gotta tell them while we're in front of you, you're making accusations of you stealing $11,000 from Winn-Dixie.
Say it again, Auntie. Okay, because when I started back over here, he's saying that $11,000 worth of lotto I took. So the police stand here. I have to pee. I'm bleeding. Like he telling me no, I cannot go. I just asked him. He said no, she can't even go with me. He said I have to stand here.
Cool.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
just forward that email to that email right there?
Yeah, also.
2-2-13.
She said if a female could go with me, I should be able to go.
It has to be law enforcement. Okay.
Y'all can't sit at the door. Ain't no
not.
in the bathroom.
Do you have I need a female officer back down.
Oh my gosh.
No, the thing is,
no,
I'm having a female officer come here. It's going to search you prior to going to the bathroom.
Oh, she can search me. Gonna take it.
No.
No, I wasn't opening my clothes.
No.
This was in my pocket.
You're fine. But no.
These only thing in here is milk and is leaking. That's it.
No, you are fine. Okay.
He's saying no. I said can't go.
But why don't you ask her, see if she will
Yes.
go pick up your little ones just in case you do have to come with me.
I cannot hear you. Okay. She said the same thing you said.
What?
I'm sorry, when the police say something to me, I'll call somebody who used to work for the police department.
Okay.
She said as long as it's a female officer, I can go. Other than that, if it's a male, I cannot go. I have to sit here and hold my urine.
Sure.
So, Mr. Art, so they didn't tell you about the write-up they gave me for that?
What's that?
They didn't tell you about the write-up, the whole conversation you had in here? Because I had it with Charles King for it.
That's fun. I mean,
But it's just about the same thing you just talked about.
correct. Because at that point, we didn't know where the loss was coming from.
He said the lot, because when he said the lotto is messing up. So whatever you're doing, you need to stop. He said, because it's a lot of money for that. And then after that, it was another one for the.
Ginger's gonna go upstairs and see
What's your money?
We don't have time to do it.
And he was getting that.
I know.
And
Yeah, so apparently 3 days ago, Lottery Police got contacted by Winn-Dixie about it. They've compiled all the paperwork and all like the files and everything for Winn-Dixie. So there's a PDF up here with like tons of information on it about video surveillance. I guess each actual scratch off ticket, dates, times, money value. I mean, we're looking at like 11 grand.
Yeah.
Over 5 months, man. I mean, that's
corpus problem.
well, it's theft. It's grand theft.
Yeah.
So
Winn-Dixie has their own corporate that investigates shit like this,
yeah, well,
and they
charges.
they wait 5 months to do
Well,
this.
they just knew about it 3 weeks ago because they got alerted by the state regarding, I guess, basically they sent a summary or whatever. And I guess they said like, oh, you're over this amount because basically each ticket has a value. So she would go in, just go to the computer and just take money out without scanning a ticket.
Meanwhile, the loss prevention representative completes a victim statement and confirms that the store wishes to pursue charges. The officer outlines the path ahead. An initial report, referral to detectives, then the state's filing window. Critically, the representative notes that Bird had already received a documented supervisory write-up about the lottery losses, and then continued the very same conduct afterward. Son. That single detail will ultimately prove decisive. The officer, deceased officers, prepares to advise Bird of her rights. Miranda warnings are triggered by custody combined with interrogation. They are not triggered by arrest alone, a distinction that law enforcement officers very frequently get wrong. The officer reads the complete advisement. The right to remain silent, the consequence of speaking. The right to counsel before and during questioning, appointed counsel for those who cannot afford it, and the right to stop at any time. Miranda versus Arizona, decided in 1966, requires a complete advisement and before any custodial interrogation, not before arrest. Once the officer confirmed an imminent arrest, both custody and interrogation were squarely satisfied here. Under Bergwis versus Tompkins, decided in 2010, a suspect who understands the warnings yet chooses to speak has implicitly waived them. The advisement was complete and timely, and so the waiver obtained here was legally valid. The officer confirms the charges, 1 count of grand theft and 1 count of organized scheme to defraud, then moves to place Bird in handcuffs. She tenses and pulls away from him, saying that the officer is hurting her arm. The officer repeats the command to place her hands behind her back and completes the restraint without escalation. No strikes are used, and no injury results. With the arrest secured, the analysis now turns fully to the charges.
So that's like the hit. Okay. And then I guess that when they found out about it, they started investigating it, contacted lottery police. Lottery police sent them all the information. I guess he just got the rest of the information, I don't know, yesterday, today, or 2 days ago. And then I guess she's here. So nobody's talked to her yet. I guess lottery police said that they have too high of a workload that they're not going to come take this. And then it's just simple grand theft. And if you need him to come to the station to go this way, to explain all the paperwork and how to read it and all this other kinds of stuff.
They've been helpful already, so
he'd be more than happy to come do that.
I appreciate it.
Like, I don't understand why they just don't do it, but whatever. Alright. So I just need you to fill out a statement form. Basically, just put your information here.
Okay.
Down here, put her information.
Okay.
And then let's just make this the easy way. So on the statement form, just write, on this date at this time, I was informed of XYZ. You began an investigation, which you ultimately determined that from this month, this day to this month, this day, employee X was doing XYZ. You contact the lottery police. They went ahead and sent you over all the files as far as video, dates, times. I'm assuming the transactions.
Yeah, like all the video and all the registered transaction was from us,
Okay.
and then I had to go through the state to get their lottery terminal reports.
And that's
what I contacted.
The scans of the actual.
The scans, right?
And then just say you got all of that information. Just say that it has been determined that the total amount of theft from business
Our losses.
or whatever is X amount of dollars. And then just put in there that you wish to pursue charges.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, that's I mean, we don't have to go too deep into yours.
Right. I mean, everything's on the thumb drive. So
Yeah. Well,
I know it's going to take some time to do day by day and each time. And
That's
that's a lot.
that's what I was gonna say. It's probably gonna be she absolutely fail. She says when we review her. If she doesn't admit and we're right, then we'll have probably to release her while we continue to work the investigation because it sounds like it's kind of in depth for months, right? So and once we arrest her, the state has 33 days to file on the charges. So if we can't really make sense of it for them, then they're in the job.
So obviously the only thing I'm worried about is restitution. So obviously I have to go through the prosecution part to get that.
So is it the Winn-Dixie that's at a loss or is it the Florida lottery?
I'm at a loss for the value of the tickets.
Okay.
Now, the cases that I've worked for in the past is we'll prosecute for the value of the tickets because that's my loss. And then the state goes after that person for the winnings of those fraud tickets.
Okay.
So that's what usually happens.
So that's even more in depth for the Florida lottery. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's the total value for the
Almost for my loss is 10,000. Yeah, 10,653
for the just the lottery?
tickets. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and then the value for the state's probably be triple that.
Probably.
Yeah, depending on what you want to win.
Yeah. So, like I said, just on that, just kind of like, just this date you found out about this, you begin an investigation, and it's kind of the format of it. So, because I'll more likely I'll be doing the initial, just a brief, just we got here reference to this is what you said. It was handed over to them to spend the more manpower time to sit there and go through everything.
What's
So,
most likely going to happen is they're going to take the initial report. It'll come up to us, and then we'll look at everything that you provided them and kind of make sense of it for the state, and then file the charges.
So as long as I get it through the courts, I mean, that's my only hope of getting restitution. So.
yeah. Okay.
Well, we got the last one, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Who do you want to do Miranda an interview?
Do you know? You have one hour. You feel comfortable?
I don't really have a lot of knowledge, but I'll give it a shot.
Just to understand. I always understand what they're planning.
That's fine. Oh. Well, the chair doesn't break on me. I just want to. What was your? I know your last name is Bird. What was your first name again, ma'am?
He's gonna be my Miranda, right?
I am.
Send me up to go to jail.
I didn't say that, but
I know that.
in order for me to speak to you, okay, because you are detained, okay, because we are doing an investigation. In order for me to legally speak to you, I have to read you your Miranda warning. Somebody said you're going to jail, okay, but I have to read these to you, okay? So, what was your first name? The states that the Constitution requires I inform you that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used in court as evidence against you. You are entitled to talk to an attorney now or have him or her present now or any time during questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you without cost. If you desire to consult with an attorney first or have one during the interview, just speak up at any time. If at any time hereafter you wish to remain silent or have an attorney present, all questions will be stopped. Do you understand your rights? You willing to speak to me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Is that a yes? Is that a yes?
No.
Okay. And if you need help, you need to contact us, Salvation Army, Rescue Outreach Mission. There's a whole different slew of things out there. Okay. We have a pamphlet at our police department, which is
My address.
so I know where you live to make sure all your information's right.
Awesome.
Okay. There are pamphlets we have that have
No.
100 different types of resources out there.
Okay, well, okay, what else do my address?
So I know where you live
Well, you gotta know what I live.
for a report.
My address have to be on the report.
Everything will be on a report. This is what's happening, okay? You're going to take a ride to jail, okay? So sit down.
Come on.
Who do you need to call?
I don't have nobody to go get my kids, so come on. If you catch my
Well,
house.
hang tight. We have some things that need to be handled over here. So have a seat.
Okay, what will be the charge?
Grand theft and scheme to defraud. As of now, 1 count of grand theft and scheme to defraud.
What is that?
But there's going to be more counts of grand theft coming down the road once they can go through everything and atomize every individual transaction. So every transaction is a theft.
So I'm gonna have a felony charge.
Yes. 2 felonies. But it's 1 count now, but it's going to add up.
Okay, so I won't even get no bond. Okay.
I believe there is. Don't quote me on it, though. All right, so have a seat.
So y'all gotta rinse the inside here.
Hey, just bring that later. I don't even need it. Come on.
Come on, can you do it out the door?
I gotta do it here. Do it right here. I don't even need David.
You're hurting my arm.
Okay, well, I'm trying to put your arm on your back.
You're praying like that. Like you're praying.
Stop pulling from me.
Hang on.
Please.
Put your hand behind your back. Okay. Hang on.
Stop holding. Do you understand that?
I
No,
don't walk down the
it
stairs.
doesn't matter. You're pulling from me. You don't do anything that I don't tell you to do. Do you understand that?
My hand was on your couch.
Do that in the car.
Florida statute section 812.14014 makes grand theft a third-degree felony for property valued between $750 and $20,000, punishable by up to 5 years. The confirmed loss falls squarely within that range. Florida statute section 817.034 defines an organized scheme to defraud, which requires a systematic ongoing course of conduct. Continuing the scheme after a formal write-up established both knowledge and continuity under that statute. Next, the investigating officer receives an A-. His Miranda advisement was complete, his evidence intake methodical, and his force during handcuffing proportionate. The deduction reflects only the prolonged, unexpected restroom denial. Audrey Bird receives a C-. Her post-warning statements confirmed every element the prosecution required. The loss prevention representative earns an A for assembling government-level documentation before police ever made contact. The first lesson is that Miranda is not a formality. A complete advisement paired with a confirmed waiver is evidentiary infrastructure. An incomplete one is simply a suppression motion waiting to be filed by the defense. The second lesson is that the conditions of a pre-arrest detention carry real constitutional obligations. A duty of care toward a person in custody does not wait and does not begin at the formal moment of arrest. The third lesson is that records kept independently by a government agency are among the most durable evidence available. Florida lottery terminal data made this defendant's position untenable before she ever said a single word.